Welcome back. So today we have the next question. What is the job of a husband? And the short answer is to grow. That's it, plain and simple. A man's job in this world is to grow. Now, usually I don't take notes, but there's so much to say. It's kind of funny because when I made the video about the job of a wife, it was very short. This one's going to be a lot longer. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, because we have more to improve. Second of all, because perhaps we're more stubborn. I don't know what it is, but we like things to be logical and categorized. You know, like they joke about the brain of a woman versus the brain of a man. And the brain of a woman looks like, and a brain of a man is like very systematic. We like to know what's what, and then we can react to that. Whereas a woman, you just feed her a lot of information and somehow it all gets categorized. And lastly, I think the women might be listening also because they might just be curious as to, hey, let's hear, what's the job of a husband? So before I start, I want to say that at the very end of the video, I'm going to give the key piece. But there's a lot, so I hope you guys hang on and listen because there's a lot of very, very interesting information in this video. So first of all, what's interesting is that in the Talmud, there is a small piece related to marriage. And out of the whole entire Talmud, which is basically the encyclopedia going into the explanation of the Bible, it's basically a half a page, and it's all about what the woman should do for a man. And the joke is that everything is such common sense that a man shouldn't even have to be told what to do for a woman, but he should make sure that she's happy and is capable and wants to do her responsibilities to the man. So although it looks like the Bible, the Talmud, is more critical on the woman, it's actually the other way around. The rules of the man are endless and they're all based on common sense. Sometimes that common sense has to be attained somehow. So let's jump in. Now, there is a Hasidic group called Breslov, and they have a very simple theory. God being masculine passes down to a man, and man being masculine passes down to a woman. And so therefore, it is our job to take care of them, protect them. And they also go as far as to say that when a woman acts a certain way to their husband, sometimes she is just being the megaphone, the microphone of God. He may have done something inappropriate earlier that day, and she's speaking through her mouth God's words. That's not a green light for women to just do whatever they want, but as it stands, a man may have glanced at an attractive woman walking down the street earlier in the day, and when the wife acts a certain way, God is trying to make this point, and it's a man's job to try to analyze his wife's words for what he can improve, not necessarily for what she means based on their circumstance in the moment, but how can he improve? Like if, let's say, she says, "Oh, you're such a pervert," just random statement. He has to stop and think to himself, why did she say no, that's not the way to think. The way to think is, if this didn't make any sense, what was God trying to tell me? And this is a big faith in a pretty successful group of people that live along this train of thought. The wives are kind and nice and loving also. We move on to another piece of Judaism that speaks on this topic, and that is called the Igeres HaRamban. There was a very, very famous rabbi called the Ramban, and he had a super famous letter. He wrote a letter to his son that we're meant to read every week. It's in a lot of prayer books. And if you guys want, you can send me a message in the comments. I'll help you get one. And it talks to you about how you should act, how your character should look like. And basically, It's how to get rid of anger, how to work on humility, how to become closer to God, how to treat people. And what it says is very simply that besides for all the other things you need to work on in a global spiritual way, very simply, keep your head down, look to the ground, keep your mind up to God, and when you speak to somebody, speak calmly. Now, besides for this being a great piece of advice for how you should talk to people in general, imagine if that's how you spoke to your wife. Imagine if behind closed doors where nobody sees how you act, if that's the person you could truly be in your heart of hearts. And you know, this very famous rabbi, Rabbi Miller, who had an encyclopedia of wisdom in his mind. A lot of times people think rabbis say things because it's kind and good and we're a nice religion. No, this is an important key. 95% of the way a man will be judged for his ever after, for his paradise, for his Gan Eden, for whatever you want to call it, when he gets to the, what they call the pearly gates, what we call the entrance to Gan Eden or Gehenna, to heaven or hell, they will say to him, not how much Torah did you study, how much good deeds did you do. No, they're just simply going to say, did you treat your wife right? And 95% of his heaven will be based on that simple answer. And this rabbi was brilliant. This was not a simple statement. This was a banner of a way of life. And it's very key that a person has to keep this in mind. Now, it also says in Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Fathers, it says, who is wise? A person who learns from all people. Now, again, when somebody thinks about that, they think about wise people, businessmen. Maybe I should learn from somebody I don't really like. That's all great. How about learning from your wife? How about looking at your wife as someone you can learn from, not as somebody you conflict with? It's a whole new way of looking at things. It's a whole new aspect. Now, you also obviously can learn from therapists and coaches and seminars. These are not bad ideas. These are brilliant ideas. But what about learning from the woman herself, trying to find a common ground? Another idea, as we go along, is the idea of a buffer. Marriages that have children involved tend, on average, to have better relationships for the simple fact that you can't really fight that easily, although some people manage to, when you have buffers around. It also takes off the stress, the pressure. It's not one-on-one. And it's something to think about. If you don't have children, to have a buffer. Maybe you're going to go away on vacation with your wife for a week on a cruise. Maybe go with friends. You might think, but that's not romantic. I shouldn't be able to spend a week alone with my wife. Not everybody can. It's not so simple. Men and women are completely different beings. And it's a miracle we can function together as much as we can. It's a miracle any of us can function with anybody else, considering how people's minds differ. But a man and a woman? So, something else that we want to think about is the need to be right. Sometimes a man knows something is very important, and he can't just let it go, forgive for the sake of peace. But he could go over to his sister-in-law or his rabbi's wife, or to somebody that they both respect and say, hey, could you do me a favor? Could you speak to my wife about this? You need to not always be right. You need to accomplish. And this is a super, super key. It builds your humility and it accomplishes your goals. And after a while, when you get into a system with it, you'll learn that, hey, this is why God wants us to be humble and be low of spirit, because these things work and they help our lives. The next thing, we have to work on our tone of voice. It's much more important to be careful about our tone of voice than about our intention. Before I continue, I just want to say that you might be sitting there wondering, who is this guy? What gives him the authority to have an opinion on all these things? And I'll be quite honest, when I make these videos, most videos I make, I'm usually talking to myself. So if you find anything that I'm saying valuable or interesting, God bless you. If not, it's okay. I'm really speaking to myself anyways, but I hope you're enjoying the ride. Moving on, I think that the quickest way to improve character is to be thrown into the fire. And you could go to self-help and improvement, but sometimes you could say to yourself, oh my God, I can't take any more of this. But you know what? If you figure out a way to get along with your wife, you're actually going to fix character traits at the quickest rate that is possible. You could sit there and say, hey, I think I might have a temper. And then you go to anger management, you figure out this and you figure out that. But if you are thrown into a situation that is so intense, not extremely intense that it'll break you, but so intense that it'll take you almost all the way, and you fight it and you fight it and you melt it down, it's going to work a lot faster. How do you think people lasted thousands of years before therapy came along? You think people didn't have good marriages before they had psychologists? Not to knock psychologists, God forbid. But when a person, a man, makes a decision to make himself a better man, he can do it within the challenge himself. He just has to persevere. Some of these words I'm bringing up are things that are not so common anymore nowadays, but you can be different. You got this. The next thing on the list, I apologize, I usually speak straight to the camera and that's it, is that you need to fake it until you make it, and vice versa. You could be furious, smile. You could be angry, smile. You could resent, smile. You could be disgusted, smile. Smile and smile and smile. And make it work. Make it work. I'm telling you it can. Something my rabbi, I know I'm jumping from a lot of religious areas, something my rabbi, God bless his soul, used to say, and it turns out there's a song and it's a thing. A happy wife is a happy life. Who wants to live in hell? And anger is hell. If you could figure out a way, even by being forgiven on your character, on your belief system, and you can have peace, joy, a happy wife, you're going to have a happy life. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, if you can overcome the challenges of living with the opposite gender, which is a challenge, then you can overcome a lot. So besides, for number one, just the simple thing that your wife will be happy, it'll be a more peaceful, happy home, it'll help you to figure out how to maneuver in life, how to handle people. And third of all, you're going to get blessing. You're going to have a happy life, monetarily, physically, whatever it is. And we can't say, hey, Ari, I did what you said and it didn't work, because you don't know what would have been. I know. Hate that argument, right? You don't know what would have been, but it's the truth. You're going to have a better life. A simple, unnoticed concept is that everybody sees you differently. I was listening to somebody talk about this the other day. It's brilliant. When you're trying to impress people and all of a sudden one day you realize that everybody sees you differently, you're going to learn to accept yourself because you see yourself a certain way. And that's it. Forget about what everybody thinks. The people who like you will like you. The people who won't like you, they're going to have some convoluted view, unless you're a bad guy, which I don't think so. Guess what? Your wife has a view of you also, and that should be the key and most important view. And if you're arguing and you have animosity to her and she has animosity to you, if you stop and you say, how does she view me? And you work on changing that view, that is going to make you a better person. Because you need to take one person, as Rabbi Miller used to say, and make that person think you're the greatest person. Make them think you're holy, a tzaddik. And it'll improve your life. You'll be a better person for the effort. Why not make that person your wife? Let her have a good view of you. Not just, a lot of men have this thought like, everybody thinks I'm a great guy. The whole world has a view of me. Why do you see me differently? Good question. Ask yourself that. God treats in kind. If we have patience, he'll have patience with us. And it's interesting, this concept. I had a friend, when I became closer with him, I said, you have a reputation for treating people not so nicely. And then I see, as one of your closest friends, you're amazing. Why is that? Why don't you let the world see what a great guy you are? Now, half of his theory was wrong. He said, but he made a very good point. He said, most people in the world focus on how the world sees them, And then they treat their friends like an old sock. I put my energy into my friends. Now, obviously, you can have a good reputation in the world also, but the idea that the people closest to you should see the best side of you, that's gold. Who's closest to you? God willing, your wife, your children, behind closed doors. How are you acting? That's the real you. Okay, moving on along. Love the one you're with, right? Famous song. This is not just something that sounds good. Hey, you're with her, love her. But it is a simple thing. The grass is always greener on the other side. You can see another lady and you're going to be thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I wish my wife was like that, etc., etc. First of all, you don't know the whole picture. And second of all, even if she is awesome and she is great and she is perfect in all the aspects that you have issues with your wife, it's one little thing you forgot. She has flaws of her own, and the flaws your wife has, guaranteed you can deal with. The flaws that she has, it might drive you nuts. It might just be insane. So you can't compare it. There's no room for it. Next thing, now that we're putting in the effort and commitment, you need to think to yourself, is your wife putting in effort also? She may have been putting effort in all this time, and because you weren't, you didn't realize it. Or perhaps now that she sees you are, she is also. But either way, appreciate her. Don't take that credit for yourself. She's sitting there putting in her side. And while we're working on ourselves within this thing, we have to remember patterns versus circumstances. When there's a pattern, you need to figure out how to react to that pattern. Don't have knee-jerk reactions, which, hopefully some of the things we've discussed here will help you with. And also at the same time, if there's a circumstance, you have to be forgiving. If somebody is nasty during a circumstance, it's a little different than if they're nasty as a general rule. And you need to learn how to figure out how to work with it. The next thing I think of a lot of men are guilty of is not being guilty. We have these issues with boundaries, and we need to learn how to stand up for ourselves. And the problem is that when we stand up for ourselves, we end up getting into a fight, or we end up being guilty, or we give off this energy because we feel badly, and then the wife gets uncomfortable, and then we ended up doing it, and they don't even really appreciate it as much as we would like them to, because this is the thing we didn't want to do the most, ironically. We have to learn how to make boundaries that they can respect. And that's challenging, but like I said, everything takes time, and it's very simple. The next time somebody wants you to do something, your spouse, that you feel uncomfortable with, stay calm, stay in the moment, and discuss it. Not saying she's going to be reasonable. I don't know if your wife is reasonable, but I'm saying that there are ways to accomplish things, and what you're doing right now, if it's not working, hey, it's not working. Next, create habits. Habits make reactions easier. I don't think I have to go into that one anymore, but do something over and over and over until it becomes a habit, and then the habit will override the reaction. Your life will be easier. God wants us to work on our life and be better people, but if we can find little loopholes and ways to be happier in easier ways, God likes that. He doesn't want us to challenge and suffer. No problem with figuring out little tricky solutions. Consider the value of things, right? I'll give a couple of small examples. Haircut. My wife usually gives me my haircuts. Massages, conversations, some simple examples of things that might not be worth their value. If you want certain things and you're not getting it from your wife, it might not be worth it. You can try, but if you're hitting a dead end over and over, maybe go get a professional massage. Maybe if you want to have a conversation with your wife and she's just not interested, talk to your friends. Figure out solutions. Build your life. Make things that work. Don't live with failure. There are no rules. I am not a believer that marriage is even a word, because your marriage with your wife and my marriage with my wife is two different things. If you were to marry another woman, God forbid, it would be a whole different thing. Marriage is a non-existent word to me. So build your life. Make it good. Does your wife get credit if you've improved due to their aggravation? It's an interesting question, something to think about. Try to figure out a way why you could appreciate her. Build a habit out of appreciating a person you love, even when they're not doing so great by you. Another interesting point that you may not have thought about, we don't know each other's lives. You're sitting there with your wife 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, 40 years. You really don't know each other. You know each other, but you don't really know each other. You know your wife through your own eyes. Let that one sink in and mess with your brain for a little while. Don't fall into common hatreds or dislikes. This is a challenge. Don't get used to making fun of people together. Even if it bonds you, it's not bonding you. I'm very familiar with this, not from my current marriage, but the idea that you can't get a good relationship going, good conversation, so there's somebody you realize that when you make fun of them, they laugh, so you make fun more and more and more. Not good. Never build anything on something negative. Don't make fun of people, don't hate people, don't speak badly about people. In fact, take all of that nonsense out of your home. It's addictive, it's horrible, it's the devil. It is. Next, you're a man. Stand for something, anything. The movie Rocky, it wasn't about boxing. Pay attention to the movie again and think of it as no boxing involved. A woman respects a man that stands for something. Doesn't matter what it is. You could be a sanitation worker. You could be the president. Just not right now. You could be a doctor. You could be anything. But if you're passionate about it, you love it, and it makes you a better person, that's amazing. Marriage challenges. One of the world's best kept secret, unfortunately, is that a lot of people have challenges in their marriages. And the problem with this is that you feel you're all alone and there's something wrong with you. Something wrong? No. As my rabbi said, my current rabbi, look up and down the block. If you think everybody in these houses are getting along, you're a fool. Doesn't mean you should blend in. It means we're going to work on being better than that. But don't think there's something wrong with you or it's irregular. It's painful, it's horrible, it's a terrible feeling when you're not at peace with your wife, but you're not the only one feeling it, unfortunately. Misery loves company, survival mechanism. When a wife loses it, it's not always about you. Even when it is, imagine when it's not. What do I mean? If your wife goes off on you, it might not necessarily even have anything to do with you. She may not even realize it. We gave the example before, she's God's messenger. But even besides it, there might be something else that's disturbing her, that's throwing off. We are different. We are totally different. So for sure, when she's going off and you're not sure if it's about you, it's not the time to get sensitive. That's not the time to make presumptions. No. Swallow it. Builds character. Any man who can be a man to men, but be soft to a woman, even while being challenged, that's a man. You want to be a man in front of other men. Watch the main guy in any movie. I'm not saying that their version of being a man is the right way, but the concept, of course, the women, and they're perfect in the movies, and the men are perfect, but just the concept that a man will do things for a woman and she's not watching. He'll protect her. He'll be soft. She could be annoying. It doesn't matter. Some of us don't have the luxury of having watched our fathers be challenged by the mother and shrug it off. So we have to learn it for ourselves. I think that's one of the biggest challenges with a lot of marriages nowadays is lack of good education in that area. But that's a real man. Be soft. That doesn't make you weak if she wins. You get lost in it because we spend so much time. She's a woman. She's a woman. Relax. Pay attention to how she loves you. Something about men, we want to be loved a certain way. Maybe we want to make love a lot, or maybe we want to, I don't know. We'll use that example. But you know, if you really want, you can actually test your wife. Not that you should be testing, but you could see there's a tester. See how she loves you. Some women take the time off to take the children to the side so that you can rest, sleep, the way they cook for you, if they want to go shopping together, which I can't stand, but I think my wife wants to go shopping with me because she loves me. When they sit next to you, when they smile or giggle at your nonsense, or you're watching a show and they want to watch, they don't even know what's going on, they're halfway through the movie, start asking you all those questions, or mine doesn't, but I know a lot of women do. It's because they love you. You got to start paying attention, and then when you start accumulating all those love coins, you can say, oh my God, you might not be making love the way you would like to, or you might not be having conversations, but this woman is crazy about me. Start paying attention to the way she could show it. Compliments are addictive. You start complimenting your wife, I guarantee you she will start complimenting you, and I guarantee you will compliment her more. And I guarantee you one more thing, even if she doesn't compliment you, you will still compliment her more, because that's how men are made. Once we commit to something, we don't like to stop. And all of a sudden it becomes a thing. You get a little reaction, a smile. It is very, 26 minutes. Oh my God. It's very addictive. Compliment. So, according to everything I said, it doesn't sound like there's ever a good reason to get divorced. Ari, how do you explain that one? Next video. There are times when people should get divorced, unfortunately. 99.9999999% of the time, not. Never, never, not in your reality. Very, very rare times, and we're going to go over that. But as a general rule, you're right. There is never a time. I'm looking forward to you guys' comments and everything. I really hope you guys listen the whole way through. I'm going to tell you now what I said in the beginning. The number one way that men and women differ is very, very simple. I mentioned it earlier, but I want to point something out about it. A woman will listen to your tone over what you're saying. Now, this is not only an important key in how to speak to a woman, but it's an important key in understanding women, almost the entirety of a woman. If I talk to a man, another man, a real man, a man who was raised properly, wasn't raised soft or with weird thoughts, I'm offended, I'm hurt. A real man, if you have a problem, if you speak rough, doesn't matter. He will hear what you're saying. A woman, you could say, you are beautiful. But if you look like that, that's what she sees. She doesn't hear nothing. Men and women are different in that respect. If you can conquer just that one piece out of this entire video, it's going to improve your life. Watch your tone, not what you say as much. Well, do both. That's it. If you're really, really lucky, your wife will give you a home. God bless you. I hope you stuck it through, and I hope you enjoyed. And I'm really enjoying these videos because, God willing, hopefully he will help me grow from them. God bless you all.